Have you ever wondered why seemingly happy relationships just suddenly fall apart? It's like a giant puzzle, right? Well, today we're breaking down a really fascinating and super practical topic. We're going to look at 4 completely unintentional yet highly toxic behaviors that can absolutely ruin a relationship. So if you've ever wanted to understand the hidden psychology behind why relationships fail, you are totally in the right place. Let's get into it. Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start off by deconstructing the myth of the perfect romance. Then we'll unpack 4 specific toxic traps: the missing apology, unhealthy emotional attachment, the mind-reading trap, and the micromanaging habit. Finally, we'll wrap up with how to actively break these toxic patterns. And hey, we aren't just going to point out the problems. We're going to give you some actual research-backed solutions to help correct them. All right, starting with section 1, the perfect romance myth. Before we can even begin to identify toxic habits, we really have to start by tearing down our preconceived ideas of this flawless cinematic romance. Because honestly, there's a pretty stark contrast between the ideal romance we all kind of want versus the reality that can sneak up on us. I mean, we all want that Jim and Pam dynamic, right? Trusting, supportive, basically best friends. But more often than we'd like to admit, we end up with the Ryan and Kelly reality. It gets dysfunctional, and we start carrying these toxic behaviors that just slowly erode the foundation over time, often without us even realizing it's happening. Moving right along to section 2, the missing apology. This is our first major trap. It's that total inability to just say sorry when your partner is genuinely hurt, maybe by a joke that went a little too far, or, a harsh critique of their cooking. Now, what's really interesting about this is that avoiding an apology usually isn't about malice. You aren't actually trying to hurt your partner. It actually stems from some pretty deep-seated fears and pride. From the outside, sure, you might just look stubborn, but beneath the surface, you might literally be terrified to admit a mistake, or you're battling feelings of inadequacy, or maybe dealing with some underlying guilt. It's a lot more complex than it seems. But it is absolutely crucial to overcome this block. To put that into perspective, a 2017 study published in Frontiers in Psychology, building on some earlier 2014 research, proves that a sincere apology drastically reduces anger and increases forgiveness. A simple "I'm sorry" acts like a vacuum. It actively sucks the negative tension right out of the room. So let's get real for a second. Ask yourself, do you feel awkward apologizing? Just take a beat to actively self-reflect on your own hesitation here. When tensions are running super high in your relationship, why do you hold back? Well, the solution here is actually pretty straightforward. If saying the words out loud face-to-face is just way too hard for you in the heat of the moment, skip the quick text message. Instead, write a sincere physical note. Just leave it on the fridge. Pouring your heart out on paper is a deeply effective way to bridge that communication gap without the immediate pressure. Okay, let's shift gears to section 3, unhealthy emotional attachment. Because when connection goes just a little too far, we hit our second toxic behavior. There's this ancient Greek myth that visualized love as 2 bodies and 1 soul. The story basically goes that humans were originally created with 4 arms and 4 legs. But Zeus, being Zeus, splits them in half out of fear of their power, which leaves humans to eternally search for their missing other half. It's a great story, but this highly romanticized idea of finding your exact other half can actually become quite dangerous in real life. Right, because while the myth sounds incredibly romantic on paper, a 2018 study revealed something pretty intense. It showed that extreme emotional dependence, which means relying entirely on a partner for your emotional comfort, can actually be a sign of childhood trauma. It's tied to what psychologists call preoccupied attachment, which essentially means you live in this constant state of fear of losing your partner. So yeah, it's not exactly a fairy tale. It's a psychological red flag. So how do you know if you're falling into this? Well, if you notice yourself suddenly neglecting your friends, completely losing your own sense of identity outside the relationship, or if you're just failing to self-regulate your emotions on your own, you are definitely falling into this trap. A healthy relationship requires 2 whole individuals, not 2 halves desperately clinging to one another to survive. Which brings us to section 4, the mind-reading trap. This is our third behavior, and we're focusing on the sheer damage caused by expecting your partner to just have a functional crystal ball. We've all been there. When communication breaks down, you force each other to read minds, and let's be honest, it almost always ends poorly. For example, you might assume your partner is mad at you and giving you the silent treatment just because they're being quiet. But the reality? They might just be completely, totally exhausted from a grueling 12-hour shift. In an instant, you've escalated a simple case of fatigue into a massive fight over absolutely nothing. And the research is unequivocally clear on this matter. A 2021 Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin study shows that relationships really only flourish when you actively avoid making these negative assumptions. To fix this, you literally must stop assuming and start actively asking your partner about their wants, their needs, and their current mental state. Seriously, just ask. All right, section 5, the micromanaging habit. This fourth behavior incredibly often kicks in right around the time relationships hit that major milestone of moving in together. Because as you finally start to share a physical space, the little things become, well, really big things. Common triggers, like leaving clothes on the floor or putting the cereal in the wrong cupboard, might severely tempt you to try and control every single aspect of your partner's actions. But why do we do this? Well, clinical psychologist Karen Nemo points out that this controlling behavior actually stems from having extremely high standards and a distinct lack of trust. Basically, you micromanage because, deep down, you just don't trust them to do it as perfectly as you would. And the fallout of that lack of trust is pretty severe for your partner. It drives the other person absolutely crazy. It makes them feel incompetent, deeply resentful, and constantly anxious around you. Correcting this might require more than just, taking a deep breath. It might actually require reaching out to a mental health professional, because micromanaging can very often be tied to underlying anxiety or obsessive-compulsive disorder. Finally, section 6, breaking toxic patterns. Now, while the list of potential toxic behaviors is completely endless, actively recognizing and catching these 4 specific traps is a massive, massive step forward for the overall health of your relationship. So as we close out this explainer today, I want to leave you with this thought. Do you know any other common behaviors that make relationships fizzle out? Take this knowledge, try applying it to your daily life, and just keep a watchful eye on your own habits to ensure you and your partner keep growing together, not apart. Thanks for joining us. Keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.